Hello and welcome our beloved viewers to RTD's News English Edition. As usual, we begin tonight's news with the major and top highlights. Let's follow. Capacity building training ends, Coast Guard. The Earth is approaching dangerous and irresolvable tipping points. Climate change on our international scene. Those were the major and top highlights. Welcome back to our newsroom, our beloved viewers. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Agelle, has, as usual, at the approach of the new year, expressed his best wishes for health, success, and achievement to all his citizens. I wish more well being, progress, and achievement to each Djiboutian, said the head of state, who took advantage of this message to the nation to take advantage and to evoke the general state of our country. We are pleased with the resilience shown by our economy in the face of the shocks, particularly numerous and of a nature to disconcert its projections, even its ambitions, said the President of the Republic. The consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, the effects of the war in Ukraine, and the general context of global recession. Everything conspired to propel our economy into difficulty, said the head of state. It is the adoption of a forward looking posture in anticipation of events that has enabled our country to avoid the unbreakable and unbearable spectacle of distress that repeated international crises have generated in other countries, said President Gedle, citing the national plan to control prices and the state support granted to the poorest of our citizens as measures to preserve our macroeconomic stability. Our government does not omit either to subscribe to its principal mission, that to continue the efforts to the development in spite of the current context little variable to the affirmation of the investments coming from abroad, announced the head of state, and consequently to apprehend more than ever the opportunities of our development through an essentially instructive prism drawn of our dispositions and means, explained the President of the Republic. That is why the reduction of expenses, the assessment to a greater duty of results in the public changes, and the realization of a greater synergy of action between the state of the and the Djiboutian private sector in order to take up the main challenges on the agenda in our country have, among others, been redefined in the strategic matrices of our development, indicated the head of state. But all this naturally remains vain apart from a permanent mobilization of our society in favor of the protection of the key achievements of our independence, said the head of state. Our independence, President Gele stressed, urging his fellow countrymen to always refuse to accept those who advocate disunity and national discord. And the President of the Republic reiterated his attachment to the exceptional tranquility and stability that continuously prevails in our country and his unshakable faith in the integrity of all the living forces of our nation, to give our country all the necessary foundations for its access to sustainable development. May this new year, 2023, bring more opportunities for the wishes of each our citizens and the final access of our country to the benefits of sustainable prosperity, also implored the head of state. The Ministry of the Interior hosted this morning an important meeting of the ORSEC Plan Management Committee. A crisis call for the management of the bad weather plan ORSEC was organized under the leadership of the Ministry of Interior, Mr. Saeed Nur Hassan. The objective is to set up a preventative strategy of information and management for the population as the situation evolves. The floods and torrential rains caused by climate change, which the Republic of Djibouti has been experiencing in recent years, constitute major challenges that our government must face in order to help vulnerable population affected by bad weather. The meeting gathered all the public entities of management and information, the Director General of the RTD, Mr. Adan Abdi Jama, the Prefect of Djibouti City, the Police, the Fire Brigade, the Agency of Meteorology, the Sanitation, the Honors, and the Direction of Social Affairs. In case of heavy rainfall, all departments must anticipate to manage the situation in order to relieve the population. The Minister of the Interior stressed that the ORSEC plan will enable national actors to deal with exceptional situations and avoid, in the event of a disaster, hazardous management characterized by improvisation of the response, a poor coordination of operations, delays and loss of time in interventions, wastage of resources that are generally insufficient in such situations, and prolonged suffering of the affected people. A vast awareness and information campaign will be conducted through the press, especially the radio and television, for the population in the capital and the interior regions. The prefect of the city of Djibouti, Mr. Osman Bilegire, has in the early afternoon held a solemn statement on the objective and expectations of the meeting of the ORSEC committee, meeting chaired by a group of officials from several public institutions. For more precision of ins and outs the meeting, he stated the following. Following the example of the capital, preparatory meetings for the implementation of the regional emergency plan are taking place in all regions, following the instructions of the Ministry of Interior since this morning. Thus, the prefecture of the Unity region organized today an important meeting in the presence of all the administrative, civil, and security officials and the civil society of Dakhil. In addition to the prefect Aden Darar Musa, the chairman of the council Mahad Hussein, the heads of all security services participated in the meeting, whose main objective was the preliminary discussions in case of meteorological change. According to the National Meteorological Agency, the risk of precipitation has been announced on the airwaves. The meetings are organized to inform the population in the capital as well as the regions for response in case of heavy rains. Prefectural officials are organizing consultation meetings to reduce the negative impact of this new climate change on the civilian population. The prefect of Dakhil, Mr. Aden Darar Musa, announced that all preventive measures will be active and all security services will be prepared to anticipate and act quickly if heavy rains fall in the unit region crossed by the National Corridor 1, which links Djibouti and Ethiopia via the border post of Galife. Several meetings will be organized in all the interior regions for this. Concerning the weather situation and forecasts in our country, we have noticed a palpable change recently with the winter period, where the climate is milder, unlike the past summer period where we suffered from the heat. Tomorrow, tonight, the sky will be cloudy with the possibility of showers on the coastal areas in the early morning and late evening, according to the forecast of the National Agency of the Weather of Djibouti. A workshop on Islamic finance was held in the Salam Tower, organized by the Islamic Finance Committee. This awareness workshop on Islamic finance allowed participants to become familiar with Islamic finance and its instruments, but also to strengthen their knowledge in the field. It was also about facilitating the activity of Islamic financial institutions and the access to financial products adapted to the population, thus promoting financial inclusion. The involvement of Islamic experts versed in the knowledge and real belt of transmission to the populations in the appropriation of the instruments of the Islamic finance, the popularization in the knowledge of the Islamic finance. Several speeches have pontificated in order of this day. The speakers have in turn emphasized the objective of this workshop, which aims at strengthening national capacities in Islamic finance. They also urge participants to familiarize themselves with the concepts of this ethical finance. Aware of the contributing role of Islamic finance to financial inclusion for some years now, the Republic of Djibouti has been resolutely engaged in large-scale reforms which contribute to the creation of a viable ecosystem for Islamic finance. As part of the fight against the insalubrities of the city, the Mayor's Office of Djibouti continues the operation of collection of wrecks of cars in the major arteries of the capital. The Mayor of the city, Mr. Said Dawood, and his team continues to crisscross the town of Bul'os. Today it was the turn of Section 1 and 2 and then Avenue 13. All the wrecks of abandoned cars have been cleared. Launched last Saturday by the Mayor of the capital, Mr. Said Dawood Mohammed, this large-scale operation have mobilized presidents of municipalities, sub-prefectures, parliamentarians, local elected officials, members of neighborhood councils, representatives of associations, and women leaders from civil society. The mayor of the capital was keen to point out that this campaign is part of the Zero Waste project initiated by his department, and which constitutes in fighting against the insalubrity of the city. It also aims to raise awareness of the population to preserve cleanliness in all public places in the capital and to remove all the wrecks of cars abandoned in places from created by the population, said the mayor of the capital. It should be noted that since the launch of this operation, many wrecks have been cleared from the public highway. The different teams mobilized by the city hall have cleared more than 100 wrecks of abandoned cars in the commune of Bul'os and the commune of Bala. The Naval Training Center of the Coast Guard, located at the camp of Dorale, hosted this Thursday a ceremony closing the initial training of the class of 2022 of the Coast Guard. This closing ceremony was chaired by the commander of the Coast Guard, Colonel Wais Omar Bogore, and saw the participation of representatives of the defense and security forces of Djibouti, representatives of the armed forces of friendly countries stationed here in Djibouti. Thus, it is a workforce of over 85 young men who have just completed their initial training. Indeed, this training they received in the Naval Training Center is the second of its kind since the official inauguration of the center by the President of the Republic himself, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, on December 3rd, 2021. The trainees of the class of 2022 demonstrated the skills acquired during their training by demonstrating combat techniques and weapon disassembly. Let's watch.
gargaar bulshadaanu nahay wagar difaacaygaanu nahay calanka gaar baanu nahay wagar gashaan qarankaanu nahay wagar bulshadaanu nahay wagar difaacaygaanu nahay xeebaha geygeena guudahanba.
The commander of the Djibouti Coast Guard also took this opportunity to pay a tribute to the head of state by recalling that the Djibouti Coast Guard is of his enlightened vision to provide our country with a maritime security force capable of responding in all circumstances to the maritime security challenge of the modern world and protect the vital port infrastructure of our country. The young gratitudes of the Djiboutian Coast Guard then presented practical demonstrations of the skills they learned during their basic training. The officials proceeded to the presentation of certificates to the first 10 trainees of the class of 2021. Then the guests and trainees gathered for a family photo immortalizing this event. Then the trainees of the class of 2022 paraded in front of the officials present for this occasion. Following the example of other schools in the Republic, the Citizens' Day of Saturday took place in the Sectoral Center for Vocational Training in Transport and Logistics of Balbala. This is a special day where the entire educational community, learners, trainers, administrative staff, school life, and neighborhood council were at the appointment. The objective of this day is to rebuild the social link in order to consolidate social cohesion and to involve the different parties in the school project called My School to Me, project initiated by His Excellency Mr. Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, Minister of National Education and Vocational Training. Indeed, schools devote a day of citizenship at the end of each month to carry out projects composed of themselves, improvement of living environment, cleanliness, renovation of equipment, enhancement, and organization of cultural projects. The Secretary Center for Vocational Training in Logistics and Transport of Balbala participated in this day by organizing a number of activities such as patriotic songs and folk dances aimed at raising awareness among learners about the common value of citizenship. In sum, the sharing of common values was an unforgettable and historic moment of gathering. Following the example of MEMFOP, the Ministry of Youth and Culture will carry out every last Saturday of each month cleanups in around all CDCs in the capital and the interior regions. This special Citizens Day entitled My CDC to Me began this Saturday, December 31st. To this end, the managers, the animators, the volunteers, and the actors of the civil society attending the CDC undertook today common actions of general interest for the benefit of the cleanliness and the embellishment of these platforms. The CDCs of the capital, those of chief towns of the 5 regions of the interior, and even of the most remote localities, have thus started the first edition of the Citizens' Day with much fervor and citizenship. All united, they said, about cleaning and beautifying the interior and surrounding areas of the CDC. These citizen actions are combined by provision and awareness programs, tree planting, and the creation of murals will now take place on the last Saturday of each month. My CDC is the slogan of the Citizens' Day, whose perspective are to forge a spirit conducive to the involvement of communities in the inclusive management of CDCs and the preservation of their environment, a strategy that is part of the revitalization of these public structures of socio-economic integration initiated by Her Excellency Dr. Hibu Mu'min Asowi. Breaking news now, the Ministry of Youth and Culture New Year's Eve Party 2023 planned at the Esplanade of the People's Palace is cancelled due to heavy rains expected later tonight. However, the event will be organized at a later date, said an official from the ministry. As part of the beautification of the city, the youth of the District 3 has in its head the President of the Youth, Abdul Fattah Ali Dan, have proceeded today common actions of general interest for the benefit of cleanliness and beautification of their neighborhood. All united, they have worked to clean and beautify the interior and surrounding areas of the 6th zone of their neighborhoods, also south of the Avenue 26. These citizens' actions are combined by provision programs awareness for the inhabitants of the District 3rd in order to make them aware of insalubrity and the preservation of environment. The parliamentary caravan in Tajurra, the National Assembly continues its tour in the interior regions to meet the population after Arta, Ali Sabih and Dikhil. For its 4th stage, the caravan went to the region of Tajurra. A meeting of meetings and sharing was held in the village of Dugum. The caravan was composed of parliamentarians and staff members of the National Assembly. This delegation of the caravan was welcomed upon arrival by Vice President of the Regional Council, Mr. Abdul Ghadir Umar. During the exchange, the inhabitants of Dugum highlighted the remarkable specialities of their community and the important role that women play in the economy of the region. In Dugum, women are organized in associations and cooperatives that are involved in the fight against climate change, environmental protection, and the production of organic products. From Tajurra to the international scene now. Climate change is no longer an abstract concept, but a quantified and predictable threat. The year 2022 was marked by an unprecedented and very heat waves, droughts, fires, and floods. These climate extremes have affected millions of people around the world and cost billions of euros. The devastating floods in Pakistan have displaced nearly 8 million people. According to the World Meteorological Organization, people in the south who are least responsible for climate change are suffering the most. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is sounding the alarm that we are on the verge of exceeding 3 degrees of Celsius of global warming by 2030, more than the double of the 1.5 Celsius limit set by the Paris Agreement in 2015. Well, by this, our blood viewers, we finally conclude this edition. The whole RTD team wishes you a happy and blissful new year. Thank you for being with us, and make sure to tune in later for more. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.